Hello, how are you? Welcome to this week's live. Every Wednesday, I like to do a live stream. I was going to say a live, but live stream, depending on where you're watching. That helps with money mindset, that helps with quantum leaps, that helps with advancing our business. So welcome. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time, let me know in the chat so that I can officially welcome you. And if you're watching the replay, let me know the same thing. I know we're all in different time zones and there's no perfect time to go live. So we just kind of pick a time and stay consistent with that. So we're going to dive in today. We're going to be chatting about the 3 reasons that you are not getting results from your business coach and how you can shift that today. It's going to come with a warning label. If this is something that you're doing, it's going to serve you to hear this, and it may you may welcome it, and it may also kick up the issues in your money tissues. But I'm also sharing this today because I know many of you are service providers, and there's some people come to get service from our companies and they have even unconscious expectations, right? They don't even know that they have expectations until their expectations aren't being met. So it's only when things aren't going the way that they had realized that they may have some insight as to what expectations they brought to the relationship that actually aren't even realistic for the relationship. So we're going to dive in a moment. Say hello if you are watching live. Let me know who I can say hi to. If you're not logged into StreamYard, it's just going to show up as anonymous or Facebook user. So if you haven't signed in, that's totally cool. But let me know your first name so I can say hi to you. And let me know how things are going. Right now, it is 30-something degrees Fahrenheit here, or Celsius, I should say. Not Fahrenheit, it's super, super warm, which is great in some ways, but of course, quite a leap from what we're used to. So what's the weather like for you? How are things going? What's the climate in the air for you? All right. So keep in mind, like there's a lot of people that want to bash the coaching industry, and I'm not a classically trained coach. I'm actually a forensic investigator, and I have spent many, many years studying human behavior, have an extensive background in forensic psychology, forensic social work, and various things like that. So, my filter is very much focused on getting to the deep stuff and dealing with trauma and regulating your nervous system and understanding what kind of really deep-seated blocks may be preventing your growth. So I call myself a coach because honestly, it's just easier to use that language. But of course, I'm more than a coach and you're more than a coach. That being said, we hear a lot of people bashing the coaching industry. And in any industry, of course, there's a very small percentage of people that are shady. We see this occasionally where people keep creating new profiles on social media and they're not even who they say they are, and they take people's money and then all of a sudden they just disappear, right? So we're not talking about that kind of situation. We're not talking about the people that are not staying in their lane. So they're making $3,000 a month in their business, but they're magically offering business coaching. In my opinion, that is really shady. It's bad form. And people who do that shouldn't be surprised that they have to work really hard to get clients because you don't have a level of mastery that really puts you in a position to be able to offer business coaching. I'm talking, and so yes, there's all kinds of different scenarios out there. And there is a very small percentage of people that should not be offering business coaching. Let's put it that way. But let's assume that 95% of the industry is high integrity. They're really trying to do their best. They're really trying to bring you their A game, whatever has worked for them. They're trying to share with you. It doesn't mean that all formulas are for all people, right? But if you're studying someone and you like what they've created, likely you want to uncover their methodology and determine whether it's a good fit for your business. So this is the place we're operating from. I'm setting the stage, right? Because it's very easy to say, yeah, but what about, and this coach and this and that, and the coaching industry is all about this. You're going to find whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for a bunch of shadiness, you're going to find it. If you're looking for the good in the industry, you're going to find it too. So let's assume that your brain is wired to see the good in the coaching industry. 95%, if not more, of people get into the coaching industry because they actually want to help people. They want to help people. So then let's take it to business coaching, because this is where in various groups on Facebook and other locations, you're going to see people bashing coaches. And occasionally we get it too, right? Where we'll have people apply and they're like, oh, I've hired every coach under the sun and I'm not getting results. And why am I not getting results? Well, with love, you're the common denominator, right? If you've now worked with 10 different coaches and your business is not really any further ahead than when you started on your first coach, you know, it's hard for people to hear, but there's something about that. And usually it's a receiving issue. It either has to do with your ability to receive or to ask. Some people go through life as a hammer and they're always looking for a nail, right? And you as the coach may be the nail. There's some people that go through life expecting to be disappointed. So they're already looking for where you're going to mess up. Some people just go through life making you wrong before you make them wrong. And so they're always on the defense, right? Or on the offense, I should say. There's all kinds of things that people can bring to the table. But let's assume that we're working with people that are emotionally mature and have a certain level of spiritual maturity and so on. Let's assume that this is what we're working with, and why people who are emotionally mature and spiritually mature and take personal responsibility for what they're creating, why wouldn't they get results from a business coach? So again, this is for those of you that have hired business coaches and you're not getting the results you want. And then of course, for those of you that are offering some sort of service-based business, you might hear some things that I'm going to share with you today that may make sense for any past relationships, for example, where you thought, what happened with this client? I thought things were going well, and then they lost their plot, basically. Or anyone that you're currently coaching that keeps saying they want results, but everything about how they're showing up says that they don't want to. So keep in mind that most people, when they hire a coach, don't want results. Intellectually, they think they want results. But what they often want is to be held in their excuses. If they don't want to be held in their excuses, they want the results that you've created, but they don't want to do a semblance of work for it. And those folks tend to be resentful. They forget that you put in your 10,000 plus Malcolm Gladwell hours, right? And that they're not seeing all the behind the scenes of what you had to do to get there. To give you an example, I was sharing this with a client earlier today. I invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in myself and my business every single year. That's commensurate with what would be expected of an 8-figure company, right? And that's what allows me to be here. So me working with people that aren't even willing to do what it takes to make $3,000 a month, there's a massive dissonance between what I'm willing to do and how I'm willing to show up and what I bring to the table as far as wisdom and skills and so on, right? To someone that is treating their business like a hobby. It doesn't really make sense, and that person can't really receive, right? There's almost too much goodness. And I don't just mean me, I mean anyone that's in a similar situation to me. So that being said, a lot of people don't want results, and they don't want to do the work to get the results. They want to be held in their excuses, even though they're ringing the doorbell to come up into the penthouse, right? They like what's happening in the penthouse. They don't want to stay in the lobby anymore, but they're not willing to rise. They're not willing to rise to the occasion. They're not willing to require more of themselves. So they hire a coach. So people that aren't willing to require much of themselves will hire a coach, and they're looking for one of 3 people. Typically, the first one, and what I see a lot, is looking for a mom, right? So people will be surprised when I'm not coddling them in their excuses and stroking their hair and burping them and spoon feeding them and so on. I'm saying this obviously in a playful kind of way because that's not my job. I have no interest in raising grown adults, and I honestly don't think it's fair to people's clients for me to spoon feed someone, right? Like, think about the person that needs to be spoon fed. Do you really want that person? If, let's just say that I was working with a client right now, and I don't have any clients I spoon feed. I refuse to do that. But let's assume I do. And let's assume they're promoting themselves and you happen to see them in your newsfeed. If you knew the level of mothering and spoon feeding I needed to do with someone in order to serve you, would that make you feel good about wanting to hire that person? Presumably not, right? There's a lack of self-leadership there. There's a lack of adulting there that is required if we're going to be running a business. There's a level of leadership that's required. So, but people don't necessarily realize that what they're really needing is a mother. So it's not like they intentionally set out and say, okay, I'm going to go look for a mother as a business coach, and then I'm going to set up my mom and make her wrong because she's not being a mom and she's being a business coach, which is what she agreed to do. But I really needed her to be a mom, so I'm going to make her wrong for not being a mom. So people don't realize that, but when they come into the relationship and they're not being nurtured and coddled in their excuses, then they can, have a variety of different reactions, and we could, go over them, but I think you probably have a general sense of what that is. And that person, the thing is about that person is that if you are not going to be a mom to them, they're going to keep going from coach to coach looking for a mom and keep gathering evidence that coaches screw me over, coaches don't help me get results, because they're not even hiring the right person. It's okay if you need nurturing. It's okay if you need mothering, but then you're going to need to find a different outlet for that, right? A business coach is going to bring, yes, of course, some personable skills, right? And being kind and caring about you and your goals and so on. But it kind of stops there, because they're also bringing strategy, and they're agreeing, in my situation, if I'm going to share my time with you, my time is hugely valuable to me. I never get that time back. My time is also worth a lot of money, and my wisdom that I've spent a lot of time, money, and energy cultivating is worth a lot. So when someone wants my undivided attention, they want to pay me for my time and get my undivided attention, I want them to use it for what I'm agreeing to show up for, right? I want to be in a meeting CEO to CEO, where you're booking an appointment with a CEO and you've decided that you want to pick the brains of that CEO for an hour, and in the spirit of moving your business forward, by the way, and then getting on with business and coming back when you need your next tune-up. You want to have a sounding board or various things like that. But a lot of people will show up and they're wanting to be held in their emotions. They're wanting to turn themselves into a project. They're wanting to be loved up. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially over the last 2 years. We definitely want a lot more nurturing. We're needing a lot more comfort and tenderness and so on. A business coaching relationship is not that. If you're hiring a healer or you are, doing something along those lines, that's fine. But it's about knowing the difference, right? So again, not intentional, but this is going to create a constant feedback loop until this misdirected need gets addressed in a way that actually serves the need, right? So many of us, as is, go through life with misdirected needs. And we then always feel unsatisfied because we're not directing our needs and really getting clear on what we need, and then bringing in the level of support that matches that. So I hope I'm making sense. Let me know if you have had clients like this before, because it's not even business coaching that this is going to happen, but I'm speaking specifically to business coaching. The second thing that I notice is people are looking for either a sibling or a friend relationship. I know they're slightly different, but I'm going to group it into the same thing because it's the same kind of energy. How that might look when someone reaches out to me is like, hey girl, hey, what's up? Maybe you can help me with it, right? And the thing about that is that if someone's coming into a business coaching relationship needing a sibling, and if they've got a shitty relationship with their sibling, right, they're going to be projecting all kinds of stuff. They're going to be expecting you to be the same as their sibling, whether they know it or not. Again, this is an unconscious thing, but they can have a need to have a buddy or a need to have a sibling and to fill a void, right? So maybe they had a tenuous relationship with a sibling and they see you as someone that's likable, so they try to pigeonhole you into that role. Or they don't have a lot of friends, they're lonely, and they are paying for a friendship, essentially, which in and of itself is an issue that needs to be healed and addressed, right? Because nobody should have to pay for people to want to give them companionship, right? Nothing wrong with that in the sense that, some people do pay for that and some people offer that as a service. But when it comes to a business coach, yes, they're on your side. Yes, they're your cheerleader, but they're not your friend. And on top of that, if you consider me or anyone in my shoes, Like, why would I want a friend that wants to pop in and only talk about themselves, right? Like, whether or not they're paying me, that's not a friendship. That's a one-sided relationship. My friends have a two-sided relationship with me. So that's great that you perceive me, or again, someone in my situation, as a friend, but we're really not, right? Because we value ourselves enough to require more of actual friends. And we would keep the energy clean anyways, right? And so the business, I do coach friends, by the way, but they're at a level of emotional maturity and leadership IQ where they can wear different hats with me. So when we're in business coaching mode and we're on a call for business coaching, it's very specific to that. It doesn't meander into like a virtual tea. It stays focused on business. And when we're in a friend hat and we're having a catch up call, or, some sort of playful exchange, it doesn't, we don't have like business questions seep into that. So people that have the capacity to wear more than one hat tend to have very good boundaries. But all of that to say that when you are not being a friend to someone and they come in with that unmet need, and usually it's unconscious, as I shared, they come in with expectations, right? And then of course you're showing up with the hat that you agreed to play. And so it can become confusing because they're needing something from you that you don't even know they need necessarily, and or something that you're not willing to give. And they are making the relationship something about what it never was in the first place. So that's the second reason why people don't get results, is they're trying to create a friendship or a sibling relationship out of a coach, and it's just not going to happen. The third thing, this is a biggie, and might bring up some issues in your tissues. The third reason why people don't get results from their business coach is that they're looking for a boss. They're not looking for a coach. They still are letting employee mindset run the show. They haven't washed that right out of their hair, like that good old commercial. So they're still showing up everywhere in their business like an employee. They're waiting for a deadline to be given to them. They're waiting for a to-do list to be given to them. They want to be able to cross some things off a to-do list and report back into their boss and get a gold star or employee of the month, and then wait for the next list of things to do. So when you're a business coach, you are assuming that someone's in their CEO energy and they're showing up, again, already aware of how to run their business, already showing up like a true CEO, and then wanting to have a sounding board, bounce some ideas, go over some strategy, have someone see their blind spots, things like that. They're not showing up on calls waiting to be told what to do. They're not waiting for paint by numbers. They're not waiting to be told what to do. They already lead themselves. And in fact, leaders really don't like being told what to do. They already know what to do. They just want to know that they can sound some things off of you. If you try to coach someone from a paint by numbers perspective that's already leading themselves, they will find it crunchy, and they'll usually push back because they don't want that. That it's kind of patronizing to them, right? They are already leading themselves, and any kind of implication that they're not leading themselves doesn't land very well. But there's a lot of people that have an employee mindset. It's unconscious for the most part, and they don't know that they're doing that, but that's an unmet need and a misdirected need, right? So they don't know how to lead themselves yet in their business, and they're not making the attempts to do that. They're thinking that, oh, well, and some people, by the way, as soon as they hire a coach, they just think, even before the first call, that magically all kinds of amazing things are going to happen because that person's now leading their business. And the truth is, someone like me or many other CEOs you see at a certain level of business, our first order of business, if we were actually running a company of someone who was doing that, would be to fire them, right? Or to demote them, because they're not doing their job. They're not being the CEO of their company. They're not even being the COO of the company. They're being an employee, right? And they're not doing their job. There's certain job descriptions associated with being a CEO. They're not doing those things. And myself and many other people don't want to run other people's companies. If we wanted to run your company, we'd be creating a company that looks identical to yours. We're not, right? We have our company. We have enough mental bandwidth going into our company. We don't need to be creating a whole sort of strategic vision for someone else's company and be solely responsible for that, right? We can help you, of course, get clear on your strategy and your vision and who you're hiring, and how to create job descriptions, and how to lead your team, and how to have cash injections. There's all kinds of creative ideas that we can come up with, but we can't be solely responsible for the vision of your company, which I know none of you would do, because you wouldn't be in this group if you were operating in an employee mindset, right? So, by the way, an employee mindset, usually by the time people get to six figures, they have washed that out of their system. So it's people that are making under six figures a year that on some level still have an employee mindset. And I know that can be really sticky, but the truth is if you're someone that's not making consistent 10K months or more, and that's something that you want, I'm really going to invite you to look at where you are still waiting for someone to tell you what to do, where you are still holding out for someone to give you direction and to give you paint by numbers. And there are a lot of great courses out there, and I'm glad there are courses out there and there are coaches out there that are doing the paint by numbers, right? Where they're willing to, like, they're literally like, here's how you set up your website. Here's where you need to put your freebie. Here's how to code this. Here's what to post every single day on social media. And they literally give you a playbook. We do a little bit of that, of course, in the various programs that I have. But I'm a much better coach. I'm not an in the weeds coach. And I know many people that are like me. We're visionaries, right? As soon as you bring my brain down into minutia, it's going to hurt my brain. I just don't have that in me. But I am really good at being a big picture thinker, working at a meta level, and then working down and creating a very concrete strategic plan based on the strategic vision, not on here's another thing I need to do and tell me what to do next and that kind of thing, right? It's exhausting for both parties. And then additionally, it's a real disservice for me to be the CEO of your company, right? Because then you're never learning how to be the CEO of your own company. You're only learning how to still be an employee and have someone give you a list of things to do and then have you, go and do them and then report back in. And at some point, if you outgrow that relationship and you can't find another coach that's doing that, that's really not setting you up. That's hard to sustain that, right? The whole goal is to empower people to have their own awarenesses and to really find their sweet spot as a CEO, focus on their zone of genius, and really learn how to scale quickly so that they can delegate the rest and have people doing all those things that maybe they can do, but it doesn't make good sense for them as the CEO of their company to do. So let me know how this lands with you. This is something that has come in recently, and I don't really have this issue anymore because I'm not offering lower tier sort of business programs. But we see this from time to time, and when I see people on social media bashing other coaches, and then I kind of see how they're showing up and so on, I think, okay, I wonder which of these expectations that they had that wasn't being met. It doesn't mean that this isn't going to be present, by the way, for people that are over six figures, but usually by the time people get to six figures, there's some certain paradigm shifts that happen between 5-figure years and 6-figure years that once people move through that, they tend to catapult really quickly, and then they're leaping from, say, 6 figures into multi-6-figure years, if not higher, very, very quickly. And it all has to do with this kind of stuff and really managing expectations, being super clear on why you're hiring a coach, what you need them to do outwardly. What do you actually outwardly need support with? And then making sure that they're the right fit, because sometimes you don't need a coach. Sometimes you need someone that is doing tapping with you or hypnosis or Akashic records or things like that. And other times you need someone that's strategic. In fact, I would say it's good to have both. And people that get to 6 figures and over tend to have 2 different types of people on their support team. One is a very strategic type of consultant/coach, and then the other will be someone that helps them move energy and helps them stay out of their own way, right? So that they can keep implementing. So let me know if this helped. And if you are someone that's already leading yourself and you can manage your expectations and you know that you are the CEO of your company, which I'm imagining you are if you're here, then you're welcome to chat with me about joining the Penthouse Mastermind. So in the Penthouse, that's literally what we're doing, is filtering everything through. Am I taking the elevator down? All of what I described today is invitations to take the elevator down as the coach, right? So when you know who you are, you know your zone of genius, when you're in your power, when you're fully embodied and fully expressed, you stay in the Penthouse and you get very different results in the penthouse. There will always be a plethora of invitations, including from yourself, to take the elevator down to the lobby and convince people to come up to the place that they wanted to be in the first place, which is rising into their highest timeline, essentially. And some people will accept that invitation and some people won't, but it's very different to run business from the penthouse. It's a lot easier to run business from the penthouse. You do far less outer stuff when you are operating from that place. Anything that you do is very strategic and can compound, right, in their efforts and exponentialize. Like doing a podcast, for example, right? That lives on forever. That's a smart business move. There's a lot of people that are working way too hard. And in the penthouse, it's all about ease and flow. And yes, that's possible, but it first has to start with releasing any attachments to things needing to be hard, because that's what we're programmed to believe, that things need to be hard, money needs to be hard, running a business needs to be hard. In the Penthouse Mastermind, we meet every other week to do hot seats. And then in the intermittent weeks, meeting as peer pods, we're going to have 2 half-day planning intensives and lots of brand new training on a lot of the very ascension-based business principles that I've used for a long time. Some of you may know this and some of you may not. So I'll share that I started an Akashic Records training school many years ago, and I started it in a working class town. And I used to go to a bunch of different cities and offer sessions and teach classes and so on. And then I had to find a better way to scale. So I was able to build an 8-figure training school based on a lot of these woo things, right? Because I was already running a woo company, and there's some timeless business practices for sure, but then there's some things that it's easier to let the energy do the heavy lifting. So that's what I'm sharing essentially in this program. It's for people that are making at least 6 figures or higher. And you're going to be getting results very quickly. We literally just started and people are already having a ton of unexpected money show up and so on, because we're calibrating everything to be completely aligned to your highest timeline and the highest timeline of your business and the highest timeline of your money, I should say, as well. So if that's something that speaks to you, you feel that you're at a certain level of leadership and business savvy, then just let me know either in the chat or you can private message me and we can chat about what we're actually covering in there. I can get a better sense of your business, see if it's a good fit, and take it from there. So I hope this served like I shared. I'm excited to join you next week because I have some more juicy things planned for you. I hope you have a fantastic and profitable day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.